growing up, yeah. This is for the one who ain't never had a love, yeah. This one's for the girl who don't feel like she's enough, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one's for the cool kid playing on the school team, crying to himself cause he never had the prom queen. Head full of wants, but they said it's just a pipe dream, yeah. This one's for the kids like me. They ain't never had one thing. The ladies always turn their cheek, but they ain't let the fat ones sing. This one's for the kids like me. Kept working when they had nothing. When people try to take their dreams, they stuck it to them, please don't change. For the nerds and the misfits, bullied by the rich kids, feel like they're alone even though they never did shit. Binging anime to find somebody they could fit with. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one's for the people who ain't ever give a fuck. For the people who are down and they just feel like giving up. And this is for the people fighting thoughts that they're stuck. Yeah. This one's for the kids like me. They ain't never had one thing. The ladies always turn their cheek, but they ain't let the fat ones sing. This one's for the kids like me. Kept working when they had nothing. When people try to take their dreams, they stuck it to them, please don't change. When we get knocked down, we get back up. No, 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 we're not gonna take it. When we get knocked down, we get back up. No, 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 we're not gonna take it. Get knocked down, you get back up. Nah, 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 we're not gonna take it. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome, Alex Quest, the show. How's it going out there? January 11th, 2025. What's up, everybody? It is good to be here. Like I said, not going every night, going every few nights. So last time I was here was a few days ago, but I am back. Nate is hanging out here. Nate coming in. Stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. Skipping the Stars post game for the fellas. Have to get that out after the game. The Stars just played. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you being here, Nate. Right now, the Devils are battling with Tampa Bay right now. So, excited to see the Devils hanging with them. That's always a good thing. Oh, they actually ended up winning in OT 3-2. I didn't even notice that. I didn't get that notification because I was setting up here. Hell yeah. So I'm happy too. Nate, we're both happy guys. We are both happy guys. But that's always fun. Enough of the hockey talk. Let's jump into the preamble right away. First off, thank you for everyone who's watching, whether it's on X, Facebook, YouTube, Kick, Rumble. We are in all those places now and really excited to be in all of them. Hopefully one of these days going to grow on Rumble, but I know that is asking a lot and difficult to do most of the time, but it is what it is. We will continue to chug along. Going to jump in with my normal preamble that I always do, though, because we need to get it on out there. So the Epstein client list, as always, keep talking about it. Keep on mentioning it to anybody that, you watch stream or whatever, because the more we have people talking about it, the better it's going to be for the individuals that suffered. Still to this day suffer with the memory and suffered from all the things that were happening to them on Epstein Island. So continue to talk about that. I have a semi little update to do in my next part about the victims. Typically I talk about the Milton and Helene victims. And of course we need to keep them in mind. It's getting cold. It is cold. There's a winter storm it's over there in North Carolina. We need to continue to keep them in our hearts and our minds and make sure that we are helping them, that we are sending them as many things as we can. If you could send gloves, hats, whatever, find a website, find a donation charity that's sending things down there. You're better off going to some sort of religious thing, whether it's a church or something like that. They typically tend to be the best ones if you're going to do that. But I also need to add our victims over in California, our brothers and sisters in Cali. And, obviously I'm a conservative and we can say all we want about California, but in the end, they are Americans and they're suffering. And not we're hearing a ton about the celebrities and their mansions burning down, and my heart goes out for them too, because while they're going to have the money to replace their homes, probably no problem, what they can't replace is any memories they built in those homes. And we all know that's usually the worst part. If you get out with your life, that's the best. But you can't rebuild memories. So whether they live in a giant mansion or they're in one of the suburbs over in California, um, we got to do things for them as well. So if you can send things over, I know that there are charities that have lists of things that are needed over in these areas for, whether it's North Carolina, whether it's California, whether it's still in New Orleans from the attacks, or the families that may need help with funeral services and things like that. Um, Please continue to be as generous as you can for all of them, because it's a terrible, terrible time. Continue to support Moms for Liberty. It's dope. Oh, I just want to give a quick shout out to my friends over in California that got out there. Two former guests of the show, Craig Leppert, Shadow Jumpers, founder of the awesome not-for-profit Shadow Jumpers. If you want to support them as well, it's for people that suffer EPP or the porphyria spectrum in general. Basically, they have an allergy to the sun, and Craig does, and he has an awesome not-for-profit there that helps kids basically experience life and do a bunch of things for them, even though the sun kicks their ass. So go look up Shadow Jumpers. And also LA Meek. He's out there in Cali. We obviously had him on the show over the past few months. And Meek is, as far as I know, everybody is safe. I know Craig was getting out of there. Meek was monitoring the situation. So they're all safe as far as I know. And that's what matters. So, just keeping those people in your prayers. Again, Moms for Liberty jumping out there. Want to support them. Keep on supporting them in their fight. Let's not talking about what FEMA did in North Carolina when it came to Trump supporters, and let's hope FEMA acts better over in California. That there are Trump supporters in Cali, there are Trump supporters in LA, and in the places where the fires are affected. Contrary to popular belief, don't know how many of them have Trump signs openly out there. Maybe they do more now, but let's hope FEMA acts better out there for the fire victims where their houses were razed and burned to the ground and things like that. So there's that. And then lastly, we need to continue to not have any let up, because a lot of people have correctly pointed out that while the fires probably weren't preventable, if whether it was arson or whether it was a natural cause that caused the fires, wildfires happen. California has wildfires. That is a normal occurrence. Now, what isn't normal is that they barely had a response ready for it. They ran out of water. We know that they have been lacking in deforestation, where they have been not doing it as properly, cleaning up the ground because of some environmental climate change bullshit. We saw it last year when they had the wildfires there, and they had trouble containing it, and we found out why. And we're finding out more about what's going on in there. And I don't want to go into any of the stuff yet until I see exactly what's going on. But apparently, like, Newsom slashed a whole bunch of funding for fire protection and things like that. So they were not prepared for something that naturally occurs out in the West. And it all has to do with ideology. At least it's what it's seeming like now, is that this is an ideological thing, that the fires obviously didn't get started because Democrats, right? But the ability to fight them, the ability to be prepared for them, the lack of irrigation to continue to have water, because now we're looking at something that's barely contained and still spreading to more suburbs. California is getting wrecked, and it is a awful, awful thing that I really hope that some people will open their eyes and see that firefighters didn't run out of water because there's no water left. They ran out of water because it's not getting released. It's not getting filtered through. It's not, I wish Dave was here, because Dave is the wastewater treatment guy. So he'd probably be able to talk more about kind of processes that go through in terms of getting water over into these areas and what's allowed to be there. So we saw this going on in Lahaina, where there was a water policy over there as well that was preventing them from doing their job as firefighters. So these are things that need to be dialed back. And I'm hoping that, I also don't want to get incredibly political with this right now, because people are still suffering. There's people that left their homes. There has been 10 people dead. That's far too many for something that is, not controllable, because fires do whatever the fuck they want. Nature does whatever it wants. but something that could have been contained. Eventually gotten contained. It should be contained by now, but we're seeing that the policies of the government there, the governments that have been put in place, have vastly affected the response. And I'm just hoping that this is something that opens up more people's eyes, that maybe the leadership that they've elected is not the proper leadership and is not preparing them and not getting them in the best shape possible to be ready when things like this will eventually occur. Natural disasters happen. That is just a fact of living on the planet Earth. If you're in California, you're going to prepare for earthquakes. You're going to prepare for these wildfires. These are the type of things that you prepare for if you're a Californian, especially in the Southern California area. That is the type of things that you prepare for. And for them to not be prepared is an incredible lack of oversight, an incredible poor government management, poor executive management there. Whether it's the mayor, Karen Bass, who is out in fucking Africa. I don't know if she's returned. She was out in Africa when this happened and didn't seem in a rush to come home to come and be an executive. Or it's Gavin Newsom standing there while the fires are burning behind them, basically saying, well, the locals are going to have to figure this out. Well, fuck that guy. We know Gavin Newsom has sucked. But, just pray for them. See whatever you could do for them, but we can't let up. This is another reason why we cannot let up, why Trump's victory can't be the end of the push of conservatives getting their message out and conservatives letting people know that we believe our plan is the best plan for the country. Because you look at the way Governor DeSantis handled the hurricanes, it was incredibly better. That's the natural disaster that Florida is ready for, right? They deal with hurricanes all the time. That's kind of something that hits them. They know it happens. And Governor DeSantis had them ready. They had damage, but not half as much damage as people thought it was going to be. They got people out of there and evacuated, and they did their part. I'm not comparing a fire to a hurricane. I'm just saying that this is something that California knows they have to deal with. There's a natural type of disaster that they know that they have occurring in their area. So we need to keep pushing. And if you're in California and you're a Republican, do not give up. Keep pushing. Trump's victory isn't the end. He's not going to solve everything. He can't do everything by executive fiat. So we're going to jump in, Nate G, with some more comments. He heard Trump started the fires. He didn't start the fires. They were always burning till the world was turning. Nate G coming back. I heard he also burnt down the library at Alexandria. He did do that. He's a dick. He didn't want anyone to see the files because there were files there. No, he definitely didn't. Nate G again. The best one was the Lesbo fire chief saying, if you're a man stuck in a fire, you shouldn't have been in that situation. Yes. I didn't have that clip, man. Maybe I should go find that clip. Let me go find that clip real quick. It's real easy to find because she is everywhere and she deserves to be. But yeah, no, it's things like that. And I mean, one of the things that I've seen and I complained about on X the other day was the DEI being thrown around for everything. DEI hire this. That's a DEI hire. That's a DEI hire. And while some of it might be true, I'm so sick and tired of everything being called DEI. Everything that malfunctions just being called DEI. It has replaced the word woke. And I think half the people using it do not know what it means. I go back to the Princess Diaries. You keep saying that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. And it's just bothersome to me to see so many people on the right just looking incredibly ignorant all the time because they just yell DEI hire, DEI hire, DEI hire. It's like, I guess they're a woman. I guess they're black. Like, David coming in here, you better find that clip quickly. If you were here, Dave, you would have found it already. You're supposed to be here to do your job, David. AOL dev, you jerk. This is what happens when you just leave me be. And yeah, I'm not good at this stuff. I'm not good at finding things. This is your job. Let's see. Fire Chief LA. Let's see if that does it. I found a picture of her. I want the video because that video is terrible. I'm going to keep talking while, oh, here we go. Boom. See, I did it. Dave, we don't need you. We don't need you, Dave. You're out here thinking you're important. You're not that important. All right, let's pull up this video. I think it's the right video. Let's find out. If it's not the right video, you guys can all just point and laugh at me. Boom. Let's share this one. Yep, this is the right video. So let's full screen this. Let's enjoy this 25 seconds of hilarity.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
He got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of the fire. If I have to do my job, which is potentially save a life, because you know what? Yeah, maybe he was in his house and maybe he was trying to get out and he fucked his leg up on something because there's fires ravaging and he couldn't see and he might have broken his leg. And he can't move. He's sorry, you're in the wrong place. Burn to death, asshole. Drives me crazy. She sucks. Nate, you coming back in. That's a problem in southern Arizona. Not a lesbo situation, but every fire department from very south to northern Tucson is filled with hot women firefighters. And yeah, it's like, listen, if I'm in the firehouse, I want some smoke shows around me to look at, fine. But in order to do their jobs, not great. Not great. Speaking of someone who covers most of southern Arizona, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that, it's wild that like wanting a meritocracy is like the big bad boogeyman right now. Like you can't want a meritocracy. Like that's just the most evil thing you could possibly do. And like to me, it's just so common sense to want to build this stuff up by merit, right? To just want to say, hey, that chick right there, if she can't carry a full grown man out of a fire, she doesn't belong there. And then how did she rise to chief? She can't do her job and she's chief. It's like, again, people are screaming DEI hire. I don't know if it's a DEI hire. It might, maybe it is. It seems like it. If it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it might be a duck, right? Like, okay, fine. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think it's even worse than just being a DEI hire. That's just like refusal to want to do your job in general. And yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what goes on. But overall, again, we just can't look, can't stop pushing. That's it. Nate saying it's nice to look at, but 120-pound dime isn't saving me. No, but you know what though? If that's the last thing that you see before you die, I guess there's worse things, right? Yeah, if you're just looking, last thing you see is a smoke show and she's just trying to drag you and like whatever. If that's it, it's the way I go out. Okay, I guess so. At least I got a pretty face. It might be what they're thinking. I don't know. All right, but let's get on with the meat and potatoes of the show here, shall we? Because we are opening up with the College Football National Championship is locked and set in. We have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. This is many a people's nightmare right now going on. If you're a fan of the Big Ten, seeing fucking Ohio State back is just terrible because they're always around it. It's incredible because this year it did not seem like this was the year that Ohio State was going to, get to the national championship. For all intents and purposes, this didn't seem like that, like your grandfather's Ohio State team. I mean, they lost to Michigan, who's fucking terrible. So it's like you're looking right now, and Ohio State's there, and Ohio State's looked good. Ohio State looked good. They had a good game, but they look good. And then you have Notre Dame, who, again, for all intents and purposes, I don't think Notre Dame should be here. They're a good team. They're not a great team. They have a really good defense. Really good defense. They can run the football. And Riley Leonard, what he lacks in being a passer, just makes up in being tough. That transfer from Duke obviously was the right move. O'Fuck's coming in. What's up, O'Fucks? Will there be a smoke show with or without her? Yes, there will be, O'Fucks. I appreciate that. Nate G saying Notre Dame reminds me of the 07-08 Giants. Potentially a team of destiny. Now, let's look at how they got here real quick because, I made it known I'm not a Notre Dame fan. not one bit. I think you need to be in a conference. I think you should be in a conference to do anything. Um, you need to be like, yeah, you need, honestly, I think it's like you should be irrelevant and not allowed in the playoff unless you're in a conference because you get to make your own schedule. You don't have, there's not that pressure of winning a conference game in the end. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, but it is what it is. Nate, you coming in, say, if Notre Dame wins, can you name a single worst champ? There probably is worse in history. I mean, probably, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since there's been that bad of teams. David coming in, Questacola. I want Notre Dame to win just to bother you. Well, fuck you, David. It's just the bottom line. I stopped caring. It's funny because like I was actively rooting. Let's just go real quick. So Nate G coming in. If you lose to NIU, you're not the champ. Agree, but everyone argue it's an early season loss, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, a loss doesn't matter. Like I hate that whole argument. It didn't matter when it happened. They weren't the same team. Of course not. Every team changes. But let's go in real quick. This game happened 2 nights ago. We had Notre Dame Fighting Irish versus the Penn State Nittany Lions in the semifinal over here. Sorry, can't speak. Notre Dame was 7th ranked coming in, Penn State 6th ranked. And I do have to say, this was a hell of a game in terms of the back and forthness. This was a tough game. Defenses played tough. Running game was fantastic. It was great watching the stable of running backs just do what they do. But I do have to say, like, at first I was rooting for Penn State. As much as it hurts, I'm not really a Penn State fan either. But I like them more than Notre Dame. And I'm messing around the group chat, like, Penn State, screwing with all the Notre Dame fans saying Notre Dame's a bunch of pretenders. I still believe they're a bunch of pretenders. And get in a conference or you're not a real team. Anyway, but I'm watching it and I'm now switching my view because I have to say both of these quarterbacks were fucking terrible 2 nights ago. Riley Leonard and Aller were both bad. Not even just Aller's terrible interception at the end of the game when they had a chance to go get a field goal and win it. But just overall, like Aller came into this game as someone, I was reading something saying that like NFL scouts think Aller should throw his name in the hat now. Like he's possibly the best thrower. And then you watch him and Notre Dame had him fucked up. Notre Dame had him not trying to figure out like, anything. He couldn't figure out anything. And it was tough to watch. And the thing is, it's like you look at Leonard. Leonard's not a great passer of the football anyway. But for Penn State to only let Aller throw the ball 23 times is crazy. I mean, this means that coaching wise, they got beat. And they also got beat on the field. And, kudos to Notre Dame. They took out Aller, who was a good thrower of the football. That defense showed up. And Leonard did enough because I will say, as much as I think, again, I'm not a Notre Dame guy, I've repeated over and over and over ad nauseum. But when they needed a big moment, Leonard got it. He had one awful pick in the fourth quarter that I thought was going to lock it in. I'm not going to lie. They got, he threw a bad pick. Penn State goes down and scores. But again, kudos to Notre Dame. They kept fighting. And after that pick, every single big moment, Leonard stepped up, whether it was using his legs to go running at a first down or it was making some really clutch passes in the end. As much as he's not a great passer of the football, he made enough throws at the end. And, when I say that, he's not a great passer, but I'm pretty sure he now owns a ton of Notre Dame records as a quarterback. So it's for a team that I hate in a lot of ways, watching them come in battle and watching this game be as, exciting of a game as it was, it ended up being fun to watch. And I said at one point in the group chat, like, screw it. Once Aller started playing like ass, and this is before that terrible pick, I was like, you know what? Room for Notre Dame here. Penn State doesn't deserve it. They keep giving it back. But I mean, Nate coming in here saying, name Notre Dame's quality wins. Well, let's go look at Notre Dame's schedule, shall we? Let's see if we can find any quality wins. So let's look at the schedule. Here it is. It's a little small for you guys, so I'll read it out. They started off the season playing number 20 Texas A&M. They were in Texas A&M. They won 23-13. They handled them. Now, when I look, I'm going to look off the side. Texas A&M ended up 8-5. So they ended up being decent, not great. Okay. Then they lose game 2 to Northern Illinois, 16-14. So that's an embarrassing loss. Number 2 game, not great, right? Then they beat Purdue. Everyone beats Purdue, 66-7. They beat Miami of Ohio. Again, the schedule is not difficult so far. Texas, that was a good opening week. All right. I will give them credit. You're coming in week 1, not doing the normal FCS cream puff game. You're playing a ranked team. Kudos. I'll give you that. But then you go to Northern Illinois and lose. Purdue, which is an easy game. You win. You handle that. Miami of Ohio is not a tough game. 28-3. Then they play Louisville. Louisville's probably, their second best win of the year. You look at Louisville as their second best win of the year. And then you will have Stanford, which is not a good team. They beat Louisville 31-24. Stanford's not a good football team, 49-7. Georgia Tech's not a great football team. I think they have a better record than they are, but Georgia Tech plays such a stupid style. They were 7-6. They were not great in the ACC. No, Georgia Tech. They play a style that throws people off, so handling them isn't easy, but 31-13, they beat them. Then they beat Navy, which was ranked 24 at the time. Navy's a good football team this year. And they ended up beating Army, who made it to the, Navy beat Army in the Armed Forces game, the classic Army versus Navy game, which was a good game. They just outmuscled them, but Navy's not a massive win, okay? People are like, it's a ranked team. Okay. They beat them 51-14. They mauled Florida State, which is probably one of the worst Florida State teams in the history this year. Oh, no. I stopped sharing it. Hold on, everybody. I clicked a button. That's what happens when they put some buttons right next to each other, and then they let an autist like me do this shit. And we're back. All right. So they beat up on Florida State 52-3. Then they played Virginia, who was better. They were a scrappy team, but they were a bad team, 5-7. They were scrappy. I'll give Virginia. They were a scrappy team, but they beat them 35-14. Army is probably their best win of the year. They beat them when they were number 19, 49-14. And this is also an Army team who got smacked in the college football playoff. And then they beat USC 49-35. And USC wasn't very good. So you look at this schedule. This is as weak of a schedule as you are going to see a championship team, a team going into the Natty, have. This is a terrible, terrible schedule. And to get into the college football playoffs, I don't give a fuck that you're 14-1. Look at this schedule. Okay, most major teams, you give Ohio State this schedule, they're 15-0. Or whatever it is, not 14-1. They count those 2 wins. They're 12-0. They're 13-0. You give Oregon the schedule. They're undefeated. You name most of the teams that were in the college football playoff. This is not a hard schedule. So for all the Notre Dame fans, this isn't a hard schedule. Notre Dame every year is going to have Stanford, is going to have Navy, is going to have Army, is going to have USC. I'm surprised they didn't have UCLA because that is their rivals that they need to have. And none of those teams are great. Okay. So that is tough. So their quality wins would be Army, then Louisville, and then probably Navy. Those are their 3 quality wins. So it's not great. Nate coming in saying, I also hate Ohio State. This championship sucks. I agree. This championship isn't great for the first 12 team. But, we'll see. We'll talk about the championship game coming up. SEC was weak this year. I will argue, Nate, the SEC is weak most years. Okay? We glorify the SEC because Alabama was really good. That's it, guys. LSU fought every once in a while. Georgia's been good for a few years. They've taken turns, but it was Alabama's dominance that made them good. The SEC East, before they've now combined them, right? There's no more East or West. But the SEC East used to be one of the biggest jokes in college football, okay? They had one good team, and then the rest of it, that was the worst half conference in all college football. They were worse than most of the Mountain West fucking teams, all right? So I've never been this SEC big time guy. The Big Ten has always been much harder. The Big 12 was deeper for so many years. It's annoying. Anyway, Nate G coming in. Indiana's easiest schedule in the Power 5. Yes. Georgia with the crappy Gunner Stockton and Penn State. I don't think I need to explain Penn State to you. No, you don't. Louisville 5th in the ACC. Yeah. And Nate G coming in with the Hundo. So that's their schedule, and that's Notre Dame's game that they played. Again, I don't think they earned their right to even be in the college football playoff. I understand the committee looking at it going 12-1. We can't not include them, but you can. They don't play in a conference, okay? Fuck this team. They don't have the pressure of a conference championship game, number one. And that would be an auto thing. And that's an extra big time game that they don't have to play. And I think that makes a difference. They do play during conference week. I get it. But being independent, they can make their own stupid schedule. There is no pressure of having to win your conference games. So that's number one. But I digress. But Penn State's in. I can complain all I want. We can go into this battle. But the game number 2 was last night. That was the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the Texas Longhorns. Now, I think most people came to this game thinking that Ohio State was going to win. Nate saying, and based on this, they'll never be in a conference. I think they need to change the rules to make it people only in a conference are allowed to be in. But they won't do it because Notre Dame is a blue blood for no reason because they're a faker most years. This is a random year they actually have done something, but we'll see. Ohio State versus Texas, and this game was fairly close up until the end. It was 21-14. It kind of looked like Ohio State was locking it in. Texas had a little bit of life. Ewers, you saw good Ewers, bad Ewers again, Quinn Ewers. You saw both. Like, you saw the times where people are like, all right, Ewers is a good player, man. Like, he's definitely an NFL. And then you saw times where you're scratching your head. You're like, the fuck are they doing? Put Arch Manning in. You saw both. And you see a Texas team that possibly could have won this game. Ohio State, I think, is a little bit better team in general. But you just saw that. And the dagger in the heart was the Sawyer fumble recovery, 2-13. Texas was in Ohio State territory. Sawyer picks it up, sprints down the sideline, scores 28-14, and that was essentially your ball game. But these are two good teams. I said after watching the Penn State Notre Dame game, the winner of this game is the national champion. So I thought Will Howard looked pretty good. He threw the ball well. You had Tate playing well, 7 catches, 87 yards. Like, I think that there was just Ohio State looked good, and Ryan Day may get a big championship, and this might save his coaching career there because his lack of ability to beat Michigan will be a massive indictment. But I mean, we shall see. We shall see. David says you just hate Rudy. I mean, Rudy's a great movie. I don't hate Rudy. Rudy's fine. And Nate saying I'd watch Sean Astin 15 yards off scrimmage. All right. So let me skip ahead here. So that was that game. There's not as much controversy because those teams are in conferences. But let's share this tab instead. So this is now the national championship game. We have the Ohio State Buckeyes, 8th seed, coming in against the 7th seed, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Now, when they made the 12 team, did they ever think they'd be getting an 8th seed versus 7th seed in the championship game? I mean, I don't think anyone thought Oregon was going to get washed the way they did. I think we thought there was a possibility they could lose, but I doubt anyone thought that they were just going to get shellacked, and they got worked. And it was a little disappointing. They may have to tweak the system. I think the better system is a conference championship shouldn't get you your top 4, your conference champions shouldn't get a bye, which I think is almost a tough sell because they won their conference. But I think a conference championship should be an auto bid. And then they just rematriculate it based off of, the rankings. Now, again, that could get tricky because there is the Big Ten and SEC bias. So I kind of understand, kind of protect that bye for your ACC and your Big 12. But at the same time, what we saw is that there were probably some more deserving teams. If you were to go by probably just the regular rankings. So I don't know. They're going to tweak it. Maybe next year will be better. Maybe next year's conference champions will come in and they'll be juggernauts and, they'll come in and they'll just wipe the floor and we'll have a 1 versus 2 next year. Who knows? Football's weird in this way. It really is the way the few bounces that the football takes that makes all the difference. But this game right here. So right now the spread has Ohio State minus 9.5 opening right now. I think that is a fair spread. I do think that, they are over a touchdown better. Almost, they are 2 scores better than Notre Dame. I'm actually surprised they went that high for a college football championship, especially with the way Notre Dame has just been scrapping in that defense. I don't even give a shit about Riley Leonard and stuff like that. I think Love's a good running back. Williams is a good running back. I think they have that. I think their offensive line is really good. Notre Dame's offensive line, they were moving Penn State. They let up sacks, pass protection. They did. But I think it's that offensive line of Notre Dame can be an X factor if they could just establish the run. Now, granted, gonna be tougher to do against Ohio State. Ohio State has, good defense. They have good linebackers. So it might be tougher, but that's Penn State's only hope if they really establish that run. Because if you're looking at passers, again, we're entering into a similar realm that we were just in with Penn State, where we're like, Aller is a much better thrower of the football than Riley Leonard. That should be the X factor. Aller's going to throw the ball. And we're looking at this with Howard versus Riley Leonard again. And Howard is a much better thrower. And you have really good wide receivers for Ohio State. So something's got to give here. Something has to give. Notre coming in saying, I think after a few more years of NIL, it'll be way more competitive. Parity will take over. Maybe, because the NIL is becoming a contract. So we're going to see what the parity is. Now, when the Congress put a cap on how much power 5 teams can spend a year, it's going to be capped at 20 mil, which seems like a ton, right? But when you're trying to distribute it out to a roster, it's not that much. So we'll see if that helps. That may help the parity, Nate, with the cap for the Power 4. But now hopefully it does take over, and hopefully we see a little more of that mix up. And Nate also saying Notre Dame has an elite Notre Dame has an elite pass defense. They do. And you saw it on display with Aller. But again, it's like champions are going to do what they do. And if Howard's as good of a quarterback as he's played lately, like, again, this is one of the quietest Ohio State teams I've ever seen. This is arguably one of the quietest national championships ever, right? It really is. Because, you look at it real quick. I want to go back. Let's see if I can go back to any of the brackets. CFP National Championship. I want to go back to the brackets because let's look at what was supposed to be, right? Because what was supposed to be versus what is very different. Very, very, very different. Here's the bracket. Let me go back to the bracket. So we look at this right here, and let's scroll through here. So you look at the first game, Texas versus Clemson. They go to meet Arizona State. Arizona State has the second best running back in the country, right? Should have possibly put up a better game against Texas, but I think everyone thought Texas was a better team. Then you have the next game, Tennessee, Ohio State. Tennessee was good, not great. Ohio State was expected to beat them. You have SMU, Penn State. Penn State won, expected, even though SMU was the champion of their division, whatever. And then you have Notre Dame, Indiana. Again, everyone, I think that went scratch, right? The way that went the first round, I think, was pretty scratch. And you saw a lot of dominant performances there, not what the CFP wanted. Okay, second round is where it got iffy because you have Arizona State versus Texas. Texas squeaks out a 39-31 win. It was a good game. Arizona State scrapped. I think a lot of people thought that Texas was going to walk on them. They scrapped. They have the second best running back in the country, and they showed it. They played well. But Texas marches on. The biggest surprise of the second round, Ohio State shellacking Oregon, 41-21. Oregon looked like a juggernaut all year. They were the number 1 team in the country, and they deserved it. They were a really good team. To watch them get worked, that's kind of, I think that threw everything the fuck off. Because for all intents and purposes, Oregon should have been there playing Texas. Then the next round, you have Penn State versus Boise. Boise looked outclassed. Ashton Genty played well. He ran the ball, but Penn State beat them up a little. And then the other surprise was Notre Dame fucking Georgia up. Now, again, no Carson Beck hurts everything, right? Carson Beck maybe changes that game. Georgia maybe wins it. But overall, that's another one that threw it off. So again, then we go back to the 2 games we talked about, and now we're here at our national championship. So we'll see what happens. My prediction, I think Ohio State does win. I think it's a 2-score game. I don't think it's relatively close, but I've been wrong. If Notre Dame, if Riley Leonard can make it scrappy, if he can make enough plays with his legs, and that defense can get 2 or 3 big stops, I think that could make it a very interesting game. But we shall see. Nate G saying Ohio State wide receivers versus Notre Dame's DBs. Wild card, Travion Henderson. Yeah, Travion Henderson, sorry. But it's going to be a very interesting time. But all right, let's jump in because we have another thing to talk about sports-wise. Look at the sports. Yay, sports. So, Houston Texans beat the Los Angeles Chargers to get into the wild card round, and it was not relatively close. I think it was like 32-12. It was not a great game for the Chargers, a really good game for the Texans. They pick off Herbert 4 times. They hit the shit out of him, and it becomes a very different ball game than people thought it was going to be. And so right there, congratulations to the Texans. Congratulations to CJ Stroud, who has come back really well. But I want to actually focus more on Justin Herbert. Because you go to this, Butcher Report Gridiron has this tweet. Justin Herbert's interceptions all regular season were 3. Justin Herbert only threw 3 interceptions all season. He throws 4 today. I don't know what the Texans did. Kudos 100% to the Texans staff and what they were able to do. But, man, what the fuck happened to Justin Herbert, man? Like, that is as shocking and surprising as you are going to see in terms of a team getting dominated and a quarterback that maybe doesn't step up to the moment. Because you have this tweet also by Fox Sports NFL with the caption. He threw 4 interceptions today. Justin Herbert, most by a Chargers quarterback in the postseason game since 1995 when Stan Humphries did it in the AFC wildcard game. So we really need the question here. We need to have the question of, because everybody sings Justin Herbert's praises, right? That he's this guy, he's the guy, he's great, he's gonna, he's awesome, blah, 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 blah. But then you're looking at it and it's like, man, is he that great? Like, you really need to question, is Justin Herbert that great, right? Because he has all the tools. He has all the tools. McConkey's really come on for him this year. He had an 86-yard touchdown pass late that he threw to him, and I think that was like a record for a rookie, and he has 197 receiving yards. Like, he showed up. Herbert found him. He showed up. But to throw 4 interceptions in a big game like this, Derek Stingley Jr. had a day. And it's a head scratcher, and you really need to ask yourself, is Justin Herbert the guy? Now, we've seen this before with great quarterbacks, right? It's a little different because Herbert isn't like bar none the best quarterback in the NFL, but a semi-comparison, and I'm not making this a one-to-one because I think the quarterback I'm about to compare him to is much better than he ever was, but Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning had such a bugaboo in Indy where he made it to the playoffs how many times? And I don't know how many times Peyton Manning lost. Now, he lost early when he was younger. He lost a ton in the later rounds, and then he finally broke through and got a championship with the Colts, and then he got one with the Broncos. And it was like, I think everyone in the NFL was happy for Peyton when he won his first one, because we saw him come in, and there was the same question that we're seeing with Herbert. Can he win the big game? Because he was coming in, he was tearing it up. He was a great quarterback. He had Marvin Harrison. He had Reggie Wayne. He had a great defense. He had Joseph Adai, who was a good running back. Not great, but a good running back. And he had a really good offensive line. And Peyton Manning couldn't get it done. And people were questioning how great he was. The joke was he was a great regular season quarterback. And are we looking at a similar thing to Justin Herbert? Now, if you're the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh's there. You had a terrible year last year. He brought you to the playoffs this year. What do you do with Justin Herbert? If Jim Harbaugh says, hey, I want to keep this kid, I think we could do great. We have a wide receiver for him. Let's get him another one and blah, blah, blah. If Jim Harbaugh, you handed him the keys. If he says, let's keep him, then as a franchise, are you giving up on him or are you keeping him? Are there any better quarterbacks out there for you to go grab? That's a big question. You're not going to draft one. You're too low. Is there anyone on the market to replace Justin Herbert with? Do you trade him? Because it's right now, it's kind of looking like, is a change of scenery good for both the franchise and Herbert? I don't know. I really don't know. But you really have to start questioning, is Justin Herbert the guy? Because again, he had a great year. Great year, and a year with all intents and purposes. You got rid of his two favorite targets. You got rid of Mike Williams. You got rid of Keenan Allen. Neither of them are there. His two favorite targets are gone. McConkey comes in as a rookie. No one expected him to be as good as he was, and he's blown up and played really well. And so you have to really look and see what's going on. Now, Dave jumping in saying Ravens are going to beat the Steelers too right now, and I'm monitoring that as well. 1:45 left in the fourth. They're up 28-14. Nate saying that, and it looks like the Ravens are on their way to get to the next round. I think as expected. Right. With the AFC North battles, you never know. Steelers could have gotten the better of them, but I think it's pretty expected that the Ravens were going to win this game. I think it's just a better roster. You've, really good defense over in Pittsburgh. That's kind of their calling card. They're coming in limping on a 4-game losing streak. Pittsburgh. Russ played great up until these last 4 games for the most part. He played pretty good. We'll see what goes on. We'll see what goes on with, what the Steelers do in the offseason. They're going to have a very interesting offseason, but I think this was expected. Nate G coming in saying 9 turnovers all year, and I thought I saw for the Chargers. Yeah, the Chargers were really good. Listen, this is the Chargers' MO as a franchise right now, where they are fantastic all year offensively. They are blowing people the fuck up. We saw it with Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson and Antonio Gates. All those great years where that offense was just dynamic. And you had Vincent Jackson over there too. Shit, how do I forget Vincent Jackson? One of the greatest wide receivers in that franchise's history. Just a deep threat left and right. And they were great. And then it came to the playoffs and they couldn't get it done. And we might be seeing a repeat there. The Chargers might be cursed to just be really good all regular season and never put it together, which I would take that on the Jets year round, but we suck. Saying Edger and James too for Peyton. Yeah, he had Edge. Edge was great for him. Bob Sanders won that Super Bowl. Yeah, Bob Sanders, God, if only he was bigger, right? He was an undersized guy that hit like a brick shit house. If only he was bigger, he could have been more so much like a Palomalu type of player. He really was a similar type of player there. Nate also coming in. Herbert needs more marquee weapons. Kind of. He has them. He had them. Keenan Allen is marquee, man. For the years in his prime, his health was always an issue, but he was as good of a number one as you were going to find in the NFL when he's healthy. And Mike Williams is just a, big play type of guy. I don't know. I would love it. But he said, Nate coming in saying McConkey is awesome, but his number 2 is who again? I think it's Quentin James or something like that. And again, not great. And what's his TE's name? Again, I have no idea. I don't know. And that's a problem. But again, Herbert played well, brought out the best in a lot of those guys. But yeah, we don't know who they are. And that's also a problem. So we'll see. I just think we have to beg the question about Herbert because it's not like he's never had weapons before. Nate G saying he had Keenan when the coach was retarded. Yes. So we'll see. Maybe the Chargers need to retool, make some deals, get some players around him. Nate G saying exactly my point. Yeah, maybe they do. Maybe that should be the big move is they come in, they try and figure out a way to get, maybe draft a running back and sign a wide receiver, a big wide receiver on the market, go after somebody. Maybe that's the move. Maybe, and they try it one more time. Because the thing is, if you go out and get all these things and you at least don't get a deep playoff run out of it, then what? Because now you're going to spend some money. David saying first year under Harbaugh, overperformed on the season. Chargers will be fine. We'll see. I agree. I want to say I agree, David, but it just begs the question with Justin Herbert because you look at the other great quarterbacks, the truly great ones, where a lot of people want to put Justin Herbert in. They elevate their teams to levels where they're winning their wild card game, at least their first round game. They're winning this game. Most of them, you look at the better ones in, recent history, which are Tom Brady's, your Peyton Manning's, your Patty Mahomes, your Lamars, even I'll throw in Big Ben Rapisberger. Those guys, they were rarely losing their wild card rounds. Is Herbert going to fall into the Carson Palmer, Phillip Rivers, that category of really good quarterbacks that couldn't win the big ones when it mattered? I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to eventually see where Herbert falls. But all right, let's jump in to this last cool tidbit here. One America News has this. It's funny that this is under my little sports category, but it's a good transition into the no, we're going nerdy next, so I don't know. One American News has this. Florida, Ron DeSantis declares January 10th, Mike Evans Day across the Sunshine State. And I got to say, good on you, Ron DeSantis. Another Ron DeSantis win and a Mike Evans win because, I mean, how could you not love what Mike Evans has done in his career? Quietly, in the most quiet fashion you could imagine, has just tied Jerry Rice for the most 1,000-yard seasons. I mentioned that, I think, the other day, the most 1,000-yard seasons in a row, and has been a Buccaneer for life. And I think he may retire that way because it doesn't look like he's going to want to leave at all. Baker is incredible over there. He's playing so good. You're going to probably get a few more good years out of Baker where Mike Evans is going to be his number one. I think Mike Evans can play a good 15, 16 years and then go off as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And it seems like it's interesting with the Bucs because they have these great players. Levante David has been one of the best middle linebackers of our generation that nobody knows about. I love Levante David. The guy gets 100 tackles by mistake in a year. Like, he's just that good. He's as good of a sideline guy. People talk about all these greats, like former, Luke Kuechly got talked about a ton. And who was that fucking monster over in Willis, I think, over in San Francisco. But Levante David is just as good of a monster as all of them. And he deserves praise, but he doesn't get it. It's just something about being in Tampa Bay. It's such a quiet place in a lot of ways in terms of notoriety. Because you even think if Baker was doing if he put up the numbers he put up and played as well as he played in one of the bigger markets. Let's say Baker Mayfield did this for the Chargers. He had the same numbers and everything for the Chargers past 2 years. God, man, yeah, Baker would be on every fucking magazine. We would be sitting there talking about Baker should be in MVP conversations. Put him on one of these more notoriety-filled teams, and he's going to be blown up. But for some reason, because it's on the Bucs, they don't get I don't know what it is about Tampa Bay that a great Tampa Bay Buck does not get the same shine. I mean, I think the last great Buck that got like a lot of shine, Keyshawn, big time, Trent Dilfer. I know they won a championship with Brad Johnson, but it's like, even then, it's like, they're not that team that gets the flash, that gets the lights, even when they're good, even when they have these great players. But Mike Evans, I love Mike Evans because he's great in fantasy too. Like, he's going to get you consistent fantasy points and have his blow up weeks as well, where he just explodes. So kudos to Mike Evans. The guy deserves it. He's just quietly just been dominant. First ballot Hall of Famer without a doubt. He can retire today. And when he's eligible, what is it, in 5 years? Eligible in 5 years, it's going to be without a doubt first ballot. Yes, Warren Sapp, John Lynch, agreed. And maybe, Warren Sapp is probably the last one that really, and John Lynch, they got the last ones. Rondé, maybe. Tom Brady, yes. And that's the only reason people were truly paying attention. But even then, Nate, it was Tom Brady. It wasn't the Bucs, right? Like, really wasn't the Buccaneers. It was Tom Brady getting the shine, not necessarily the Bucs. And Gronkowski, because he brought him over. And it's such a weird dichotomy with Tampa Bay where they have really good players and really good teams at times. And it just doesn't seem like they continue to get the shine that you would think they would. I don't know. It's a bizarre thing that I've taken note of, but happy for Evans, because Evans absolutely deserves it. It's going to be cool to say one day with, if my daughters talk about it and, or whatever, they're whoever they eventually marry, they're going to sit there and be like, oh, this guy, Mike Evans, did you watch him? Be like, yes, I got to watch Mike Evans play his whole career. And I watched him play at A&M when he was making Johnny Football look great. And they're like, who the fuck's Johnny Football? And be like, shut up and watch this game, child. But no, it's going to be cool to say I got to watch Mike Evans play his whole career. And he's an absolute monster. You can put him up there with the most talented wide receivers to ever play the game. So that's really cool. Cool to see. So let's jump into some nerdy stuff. I'm going to share this, and then we're going to go to a quick story. The Bleeding Fool has this. Indie Comics creator J.S. Earls says that DC Comics' new Sorrow Lantern superhero looks suspiciously like his 2003 superpowered character, the Sorrow. Could it be a coincidence or copyright theft? Take a look at the immense similarities and draw the conclusion. So boom, we have the article here, and we're going to touch on it. So from Bleeding Fool, Chris Braley wrote this. In the ever-evolving landscape of comic books lore, originality remains a cornerstone of engaging narratives and unforgettable characters. However, some recent events within the DC universe have sparked a heated debate over the boundaries of creative inspiration and potential copyright infringement. Epicenter of the controversy, independent comic book creator J.S. Earls and his character, the Sorrow, whose likeness is eerily similar to a new character by the publishing giant. We're not just talking about the cape and cowl, a costume type that is nearly ubiquitous to all superhero types. So this is the picture of the Sorrow right here by J.S. Earl. Pretty dope looking character. And you can say too, like the Sorrow ripped a ton from Spawn in a lot of ways, right? When I first saw this, I saw like a hooded Spawn. But again, a lot of inspirations come from others. And if there's enough uniqueness, and this is a pretty dope looking character. And no, it's not the Sorrow from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, which is fucking awesome. I love that game. But this is a pretty dope looking character, and this is from the creator J.S. Earl. So let's continue to go down. J.S. Earl introduced his creation, The Sorrow, to the world in 2003, with the character's first printed appearance occurring in 2005. The brainchild of a collaboration between Earls and artist Darius D.F. Cole, The Sorrow is a profoundly poignant spiritual being manifesting in the aftermath of tragic events through the tears of their victims. That's a pretty fucking cool story. The character's dramatic visual identity, featuring a white hood and cloak set against a dark black body with a solitary tear descending from the left eye, has become emblematic of sorrow and loss. Okay, there's all that. The Sorrow's narrative trajectory began with the inclusion of anti-child abuse anthologies, initially published by Lulu.com in 2005, and later transitioning into the realm of comic book anthologies under Shooting Star Comics banner. The character's compelling story was further developed in Starcross United #2, subsequently becoming a staple in various Starcross Comics publications. So again, here is the Sorrow. Obvious with that same exact distinct look, looking a little more fleshed out and badass in this. So let's keep going. Fast forward to 2024, DC Comics presents a new addition to their illustrious Green Lantern series, the Sorrow Lantern. This character, initially revealed as Nathan Broom in the 13th issue of the revamped series, has drawn immediate comparisons to Earl's original creation due to an uncanny likeness in both name and concept. In this month's issue of Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum #1, Sorrow Lantern makes a fully costumed appearance. See the screenshot below. Superhero is also a being that derives its power from the profound well and sadness of despair, a concept that resonates deeply with the essence of Earl's sorrow. So yeah, you see the sorrow by the eye right there, and the cowl, dark background, lighter cape and cowl with all the little slashies, kind of like this is very, very, very similar. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Nate coming in saying, good luck. Marvel's entire catalog is what? Yes, Marvel's entire catalog is similar, but not, I guess. But you'll see, Nate, this goes a little bit deeper. Nate G saying, oh my God, there's Emo Corp now. There is an Emo Corp. The parallels between the two characters are indeed difficult to overlook. Normal affinity. Both characters feature sorrow prominently in their titles. Which, again, Nate, that's a little bit of a difference. Usually they kind of change the name. They keep a similar look, but change the name. Power dynamics. Both entities are empowered by the energy of sadness and despair. Visual correlation. The Sorrow's mask bears a tear A tear, not a tear. Why can't I read? A tear and the Sorrow Lantern's chest emblem design bears the motif of a tear. And if you look at this, the Sorrow emblem, the Sorrow as well, it has tears on the left side there, the same spot that the Sorrow creation has by Earl. And thematic convergence, both characters are deeply rooted in tragedy and emotional repercussions thereof. So there is that interesting correlation. The timing of these striking similarities could cast a shadow over DC Comics and the supposedly originality of the Sorrow character. With Earls of Sorrow having been part of the comic book lexicon for almost 2 decades prior, questions about the legitimacy, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to skip some of this because, again, there's the Sorrow. Starcross Comics, very clear. Now, and there's more right there. There's more of the Sorrow. They're just showing you some pictures here. I'm not going to read because there is a statement from Nicholas Greer brought up the striking similarities, blah, blah, blah. And so I want to read this. So Jay Kogan, the senior VP of legal affairs at DC Comics, soon reached out to Gear directly in the following message. And so they reached out to Nicholas Gear, not the creator J.S. Earl, but Nicholas Gear. So let's keep going. Your tweet to Green Lantern writer Jeremy Adams regarding DC's Green Lantern Sorrow character has been forwarded to me. And which is funny. We are now forwarding tweets. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, how many years before there's a reparations corps? That would be hilarious. That would actually be funny. A reparations corps. I can assure you that neither Jeremy Adams nor any editor or other person involved with the creation of DC's GL Sorrow, Green Lantern Sorrow character, or the writing or illustrating of any DC comic books feature this character ever saw, read, or was ever even aware of Starcross Comics' The Sorrow comic book or character, and therefore any similarity between the DC character and Starcross Comics character is completely coincidental. So, here's the thing. While this may seem like a bitch-made cop-out, I would not be surprised if these new writers, who probably aren't even comic book fans initially, and this, whoever the fuck this person is, probably doesn't even like comics, right? So they wouldn't be as invested in the indie scene, even with the character. It's 20 years deep. Now, I have not been a fan of comics really for a little while. I haven't bought very new comics probably in the last decade. Any comics I buy, I have a stack of them in my closet. They're old ones. They're old comics. I'm not a fan of the new comic lines. I don't really care about them. I wasn't massive into the indie scene when I did like it. I liked Image. I liked Icon. I liked some of those. I didn't know this other brand with the Sorrow. So even if you are a comic book fan, I won't fault you for not knowing some of these obscure indies, even if this character's been around for 20 years, right? So I'm not always going to fault them. But if you're in the industry and you're designing a character, right? Wouldn't it be frugal for you to go and kind of search it, right? To see if there's something similar? I know you're writing for DC, so you probably don't give a fuck, right? You're designing for them, so you don't care. But shouldn't someone from legal look at this and figure out, hey, maybe this is wrong? But I digress. Let's keep going here. That said, as a general rule, and in the interest of industry cooperation, we think it's best for comic book publishers to avoid having characters that readers find to be confusingly similar. We've searched online for more information about the Starcross Comics character, but have had little success finding information about the character beyond that the character appeared in Starcross United #2, and that he or she, it's hilarious, they have to include that, appears to be a character of color. But we found no other details about the character itself, such as background, powers, real name, etc. If you could send me more information about the Starcross Comics character, or perhaps a PDF of or link to a published comic book issue featuring the character, we'd be pleased to take a look to see if there are any non-superficial coincidental similarities between our respective characters that may be in both of our best interests to address going forward. This email is without prejudice to any of DC's rights, all of which we expressly reserve. Thanks for reaching out, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So what that's basically saying is, fuck you. That was all that was. I do not care what you think, because obviously the sleuths have been out there. They've caught them. And the fact that they're not reaching out to Starcross Comics, or they're not reaching out to J.S. Earl, the creator, shows they don't give a fuck. DC does not care. in the interest of industry cooperation, shut up. We are going to squash you. That's all it is. My character has been bought and seen by probably thousands, hundreds of thousands, because DC still sells, as opposed to your character, which over 20 years has maybe been seen by a few thousands. I mean, DC does not care. DC does not care. So at the end of this, we'll see. We'll see if there's any follow up on this. I doubt it. I don't think Starcross is going to sue. I don't think that there's much that's going to come of this, because I don't think JS Earl, like you said, Nate, Marvel's lineup is a lot of stolen things. A lot of places steal them, right? And I mean, if they can come out with definitive proof and they come in and they say, hey, this is stolen and we have a battle here, we'll root for the little guy, right? But we'll see. Nate G goes, especially hurts my heart as Green Lantern universe is my favorite. I've never really got into it very much. And I know I'm not as much of a DC guy, so maybe that's why. The Lanterns have always been dope. The Lantern Corps is pretty cool, because I know, like, it's hilarious that Marvel is completely like, we stole the Nova Corps. Nova Corps is essentially Lantern Corps, just very, similar in a style and everything. But man, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Nate also coming in. I'm going to go on a limb and say, much like St. Walker's Arch, Sorrow will repent and join the BLM Corps. That would be entertaining, to say the least. We'll see what goes on with that, though. Now, AOL Dave sent this to me, so I'm hoping it's cool to read. But Discussing Film has a tweet here, and I shall read it out. Let me make myself tiny. Andy Machete explains why he thinks The Flash failed. Quote, a lot of people aren't interested in Flash as a character. The public half of that, the 4 quadrants, the 2 female quadrants. There are a lot of women who aren't interested in The Flash as a character. I mean, yeah, that's not true. Because I go underneath, Austin, if only we had something that proved that isn't true. Yeah, because I think it's crazy. People aren't interested in Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller is a fucking piece of shit, and he played the character terribly. People are just fine with The Flash. You can get women to watch The Flash. Again, like I said, I scrolled down to that. Was the first thing I saw. I was interested. Austin, I don't know who Austin Planet is, but it's like the CW proved that you can get a ton of women to like The Flash. You can get a ton of women to like the Green Arrow. You can get a ton of women into this shit, because the CW had a ton of women fans. Supergirl and all that shit too. I don't know if that was CW or that was not, but still, I think Supergirl was on CW. But it's full of shit. It was a bad movie with really bad CGI, with really bad action, with a fucking actor that nobody cares about, with a lot of characters that nobody cares about. So it's like you are trying to pin on the fact that women don't like this. No, you just guys suck at making movies for them right now. If you would have just taken the CW actor and then given him a decent script, I guarantee The Flash would have had some success. But you took a piece of shit as a person, which is Ezra Miller, gave him a shit script with shit direction, shit action, shit CGI, and you got a shit movie that nobody cared about. So, I mean, Dave, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate that. Gave me a little chance to rant on Ezra Miller should not be in any movies. He should be in jail. Anyway. Nate G come back in. Godheads, Parallax, Black Lantern, so fire if you haven't read. Maybe. Point me out where to start. What should I buy first, Nate? I like the graphic novels at this point, because it just gets me all like the story just streamlined through whatever comics they were in. So point me in the right way. Point me in the right way. Point me in the, you said, I don't think I've read a single arc better than Sinestro Corps Wars. Should I start with the Sinestro Corps Wars? Maybe I'll go find the graphic novels of the Sinestro Corps Wars, and I will read those, and my wife will hate me for buying more comics. But that will be okay. Maybe I'll go to Barnes and Noble, keep them alive a little bit. But all right, we are going to head in to politicking, baby. Jumping into the politics. And we are going to start off right away. Leading report over here, having Barack Obama and Donald Trump, I mean, yucking it up over at Carter's funeral. And now, again, these are two guys that have really fucking poked fun at each other, made fun of each other, had some harsh words for each other. Doesn't seem to like each other, But number one, there's got to be some sort of shared camaraderie with them going through basically having a lot of similar things that went on that they both dealt with throughout each other's presidencies, right? Like Barack told him he was the successor to Barack Obama. So he was dealing with a lot of things that Barack had left him, right? In terms of geopolitical stuff and things like that. So there is that. Um, and I think that there's just kind of a charm that Trump has that you can't almost deny. So let's watch here. And there's a hilarious clip. It's a minute long. There's a hilariousness of Kamala just looking back in disdain when they start talking. So here, they have the music. Barack says something. Kamala looks back and is like, the fuck? Look at how pissed Kamala is. This is hilarious. And it's not like just like one little thing. They're having an extended conversation and it seems cordial and friendly, right? Like, it doesn't seem like Barack is adversarial at all. Like, Donald's not adversarial. Like, the body language seems really friendly. And I saw some really funny things. Like, has there been a psyop all along between these two? But it's like, I think it's just a little bit of mutual respect for both holding the office at this point. The shit talking was, God, 10 years ago now? Almost. At least 10 years ago. So that was the clip. But it's like, it's not adversarial at all here, which, again, some people may hate. But for me, I feel like it's not terrible. Like, I understand it. But yeah, no, I found that to be funny. And it just it's something about Trump, I think. I think it's something about Trump that Barack is supposed to hate him. And famously, like, Bush snubbed him, wouldn't like shake his hand or some shit like that, because Bush is a bitch. But like, there's just something to be said about like, Donald Trump sitting there. And again, the guys are supposed to hate each other, and they're just having a cordial conversation. And at point, they're cracking jokes with each other. And it's like, I think it's just Trump. Trump just, he can take the business side of things. I think that's the way he looks at this. And he said it. It's a business, right? The shit talking, the politics, to him, everything is business. So he can separate the business side from the personal side. He could separate when I'm at the bully pulpit, I'm going to talk my shit. Because I wouldn't be surprised if a week from now he says Obama was the worst president of his life after he just sat there talking to him, right? There's the business side of things. This is the personal side. I'm next to you. I'm sitting next to you. I'm going to be cordial with you. And, that's what ensues. The conversation. Obviously, it seems like they're having a decent time talking to each other. So that I found that to be interesting. Kamala's face. Can I find it real quick? Because we just need to. I don't know if Kamala thought. Let's watch this real quick because this is hilarious. Like, right, I don't know if Kamala thought like Barack was starting to talk to her. She turns around waiting for a conversation, and she's like, look at how annoyed she got. Like, that I find hilarious. That she obviously was like, I really think she thought that Obama was going to talk to her, that was being directed at her. And then when she saw that he was having a conversation with Trump, and a seemingly cordial one, it got her. And like, Kamala's going to watch that back and probably be like, man, my body language does suck. Maybe that's why people didn't resonate with me, because I'm plastic. Anyway, so let's go to this next tab. It's Eric Doherty to Justin. Kamala Harris posts a photo from Jimmy Carter's funeral with a wide angle of all the former presidents and other seating areas. The photo crops out Trump. So let's pull up the photo right here. Now, we saw the video. Trump is sitting right next to Barry, right? And you have Biden over here with Jill, Kamala with, I don't know, I forget what the fuck her name is. Her husband is. You have Bill. Hillary's behind Kamala, which is hilarious. You can't see Hillary. But you have Bush there, Bush's wife, you have Barry, you have Al Gore back there, Pence is there, and she crops out Trump, which it's incredible. It is so petty. I almost appreciate the pettiness. I want to go to the vice president's actual tweet. She tweets out, President Jimmy Carter loved our country. He lived for his faith, served the people, and left the world a better place than he found it. President Carter's many contributions will echo the generations to come. And then she followed up with that picture, which, again, honestly, I appreciate the pettiness. I almost appreciate it because you know something? She took the L. She just certified the guy. She's getting roasted left and right. Her own party's has roasted her. Now they're starting to come and say she can win. Blah, blah. She's been roasted on all ends. The little bits that she can get, the slight fuck you she can get over to Trump before. I respect it. I respect the pettiness of this, of cropping him out. She didn't have to crop him out. Like, she didn't have to crop him out. She could have went a little bit to the right. You didn't have to get like the back shot of this fucking, I don't know who that woman is in the little hat, or any of these people over here to the left. Like, she could have easily went a little more left. Now, maybe let's steel man what's going on here, okay? Maybe if you look at it, she's kind of in the middle of the picture. So maybe it was kind of an ego thing where she wants to be in the center. And that's how it crops out. That her being in the center cuts off Trump. No skin off her back, right? Fuck Trump to her. So maybe it's an ego thing. She wants to be in the center. If I kind of find the sun, yeah, it's kind of even amount. So it could be an ego thing. She's in the center. Maybe. But the pettiness, I can actually respect. I'm not mad at her for being petty. I know a lot of people ripped her for being petty, but I actually found it to be fucking hilarious with how petty she is. But let's move on, because we have this, and I have to say, I missed this Ron DeSantis. Let me pull up real quick here, because before we watch this, you're going to watch this clip. This is old school Ron. When people were naming Ron DeSantis the heir apparent to the MAGA movement, to Trump, before JD Vance, when JD Vance was calling Donald Trump a grifter and saying that he was a Nazi, you had Ron DeSantis being the heir apparent. And this is what I think we all miss from Ron DeSantis. So let's bring this back up and let's watch this. From Florida's Voice, Ron DeSantis smacks down reporters when asked to criticize Trump for criticizing Gavin Newsom over California fires. It's a little bit of a longer clip, a minute 50, but this is quintessential Ron DeSantis. And I'm telling you right now, anybody that's looking at 2028 for Ron, he needs to keep doing this. He only has, what does he have, 2 more years left in his term? He's done in 2026. They need to start getting more clips back up of Ron DeSantis owning the media, because that is what got him the popularity. Christina Pushaw, if you ever fucking get to this, Max Nordu, I don't know if you fucking exist, but any of the Ron supporters, Will Chamberlain, I know you were a part of his group for a little while, and when they got rid of Will Chamberlain, it was the most mind-boggling fucking thing to me, because he was one of the only people with a brain, it seemed like, in that campaign. But put out more of this. This is what got Ron popular in the first place. Let's keep going. Let's start this video.
Appropriate for the president-elect or a president to be
Is it
criticizing.
appropriate for people in your industry to try to create division and to try to create narratives anytime these things happen? Now, you're not as interested in doing that because Newsom is a D. If Newsom was a Republican, you guys would go you would have him nailed to the wall for what they're doing over there. And I know we've dealt with it. We just assume in Florida, anytime something happens, it's going to be politicized by the media. So you guys sitting in judgment of Donald Trump, I mean, excuse me, I think your track record of politicizing these things is very, very bad.
Okay.
So right there, number one, awesome. Fucking awesome, right? Like, Ron just undresses that reporter. And really well done. And man, like, it's crazy. I don't think Ron DeSantis would have won the primary. I will get this right out there. I do not think he would have won the primary, regardless of what he did. I know people had him, but when Trump had momentum, once the momentum started to swing, when Trump started to get back into the swing of things, there was no stopping him, right? But if this Ron DeSantis had come out from the get-go, if he never did a dumb fucking X space to announce he was running, if he didn't come out, when you see Ron DeSantis in this space where he is just swinging and wheeling and dealing, the man should have never done anything scripted. It should have all been questions from the media. If I'm his next campaign, like, Honestly, if I'm Ron DeSantis' next campaign, maybe I should run his campaign. Every single thing I do is going to be a press conference, is going to be a town hall, is going to be a setting where he can interact, really interact, show his moxie, and talk about the shit that's important. Let him have adversarial reporters asking him questions because he is the absolute best when he is taking down the media and fucking them up. That is when Ron DeSantis is at his best. Let's keep going with Ron here.
Last question. Newsom should resign and that the wildfires are all his fault. So do you agree with those comments?
I remember when we had the Surfside Tower collapse, I had people from the Washington Post trying to blame me for it immediately without having any facts or anything. Oh, he didn't declare a state of emergency. First of all, state of emergency doesn't mean you can't
Biden
respond.
did it,
It's all that. Excuse me?
Biden did it. I think that's what you said.
Well, but what I'm telling you is you guys are trying to make an issue of it when I have watched from this seat. In fact, when I got elected governor, I was meeting with some of the other Republican governors, and what they would say is, hey, if you have a natural disaster, just know media's coming at you, they're going to do it. It's not the same. That mayor of LA, if that were a Republican mayor, I could only imagine what that would do. I mean, you know the fires are at high risk, and you try to go to Africa or wherever she was to go on some type of voyage. You should have been there preparing and doing that, and yet I don't see a lot of heat being directed in that thing. And so, you know, I'd like to see some balance on how this is done. You could criticize the president-elect, but I think you also have to hold these other people accountable, and I have not seen that.
And I do have to say, absolute respect for Ron DeSantis, because Ron DeSantis has no reason to defend Donald Trump. He has no reason to come to his defense. He has no reason to be nice, right? Like, they went through a pretty brutal process where Trump shoved him aside. Trump told Ron DeSantis, you're not even worthy of my time to debate. I know I'm a better chance at winning than you. I'm not even going to waste my time. And that's crazy. But kudos to DeSantis for understanding that being an ally to Donald Trump for the next 2 years until his term is done is the best thing he can do. Number one, Trump is a Florida resident. So it's one of his residents. Even though he's going to be back in the White House, he's still a Mar-a-Lago, Florida resident. That's number one. But number two, I think Ron DeSantis understands, as much as he's probably still pissed about everything that went on during the election, that he still needs to play ball if he has any aspirations for 2028. That's number one. And number two, I do truly believe that Ron DeSantis does have the best interests of his constituents in mind. Now, he doesn't always make the right decisions. He's gotten criticized. There was a lot of skeletons that came out about him during the campaign from people that are Trump supporters that live in Florida. I get it. Not going to make the right decision every time. But I think DeSantis has been one of the better governors in my lifetime down in Florida and in general. And they've had some pretty good ones. Don't get me wrong. They've had some solid governors. But he's been a really good just overall governor too around the country. DeSantis has been solid. And I think we need to see more of this DeSantis again. This DeSantis is when everyone started to like him and think that he was a viable possible replacement for Donald Trump. And if he wants to ever get back to that situation where he can look like a potential presidential candidate again, he's going to need to do this. All right, we're going to jump into this story. I'm going to try not to go too long, but I can go forever with something like this. But from the New Yorker, Elon Musk, the world's richest man, has become fixated on child sexual exploitation in the deindustrialized English towns, much of which took place more than a decade ago. What is he after? So this is an article in the New Yorker by Sam Knight. So let's go through this. Now, everyone, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this article. I don't think I finished it in person. We'll read some of it. Okay? We will read some of it. But man, this guy's a fucking asshole. So it's by Sam Knight. So for the past week, British public life has reverberated with the impact of Elon Musk's tweets, percussive, repetitive, basically vile, calling for the overthrow of the elected government and weaponizing a national scandal relating to the rape of young girls in impoverished English towns. Okay, we're going to start here. Already setting things up. This asshole's already setting things up. national scandal relating to the rape of young girls in impoverished English towns. So already he's coming down and saying and setting the stage that these are just poor little girls. They're poor kids. Okay, let's keep that in mind. It's been hard to keep your head, and not everyone has. The onslaught began on January 1st when Musk responded to a report by GB News, a right-wing cable news channel. I guess it's right-wing over there where the Tories are your conservatives, I guess. Which said that the country's Labor government had rejected a national inquiry into non-recent sexual abuse in Oldham, a town just outside of Manchester in northern England. Again, look at the way this guy is setting things up. They rejected a national inquiry into non-recent sexual abuse. So, okay. So just because it didn't happen recently, it shouldn't matter. To this motherfucker, it should not matter because it didn't happen recently. It's non-recent. Why are we digging back up old skeletons of little young girls, teens and younger, that were sexually abused? Why do we care? Let's continue. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the actual story is more complicated than that. For years, local politicians in Oldham have been divided about how best to address catastrophic failings amongst the town's police and local officials in their handling of rape and abuse cases of girls in the town in the 2000s and early 2010s. And he puts in parentheses, by way of example, in 2012, a social worker named Shabir Ahmed, who worked for Oldham Council for 18 years, was convicted of 30 child rape charges and sentenced to 22 years imprisonment. So again, he's trying to dismiss the fact that there is a problem in that town by saying that they've grappled with it and they don't know how to deal with it. The scandal is distressingly familiar. Okay, so this is where he proves Elon's point right here, okay? The scandal is distressingly familiar. A number of towns and cities across England, including Rochdale, Rotherham, Telford, and Oxford, have experienced comparable episodes, often characterized by the politically charged fact that most of the perpetrators have been men of South Asian descent. Again, so here's the thing: they have to call them South Asian. He can't just say Muslim men, because the thing is, they are mostly Muslim men. They are mostly Muslim men. But he can't just say it. This is the way that they are trying to get around this. They are calling them South Asian or Asian men to try and sit there and mask the fact that it's not because they're Asian that they're doing this. It's because they are radical Islamists that believe in Sharia. But they can't do that. Anyway, men of South Asian descent with Muslim backgrounds, and that most of the victims have been young white girls. Again, they don't give a fuck because they are young and white and infidel, and they should be showed. Squiggles McJr. going with 07. Yes, 07. If people don't know what that is, look it up. Last October, a few months after Labor defeated the Conservatives in the country's general election, councillors in Oldham wrote to the party's safeguard minister, Jess Phillips, a prominent campaigner against violence towards women and girls, which is funny they throw that in. And look at her response, asking for national investigation of what had taken place in the town. Like one of her conservative predecessors, who had turned down a similar request in 2022, Phillips recommended a locally led process instead. So again, here's the thing. Anybody that pays attention at all to British politics knows that the Conservatives have been fucking terrible there forever. For the last 20 years that they had power before the Labour Party took over, they have been awful and generally worse than Labour was. Okay? Oh, it's a salute. I didn't know that. I thought there was something going on with the 07 and gangs and stuff like that. Or maybe it was something else. I don't fucking know. Squiggles, you threw me off. Anyway, a recent inquiry along these lines that took place in Telford, a town 80 miles south of Oldham, found more than 1,000 cases of child exploitation that are going back to the 70s. It is considered a model of its type. Despite the acknowledging the strength of feeling in Oldham, Phillips wrote that it was for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally rather than for the government to intervene. So here's the thing. This is, again, proving Elon's point that the federal government doesn't give a fuck. If you are finding out that there are hundreds, thousands of young child sexual abuse or any sort of sexual abuse going on, and you decide to just turn your head away from it and saying, the local government that has not been able to get a handle on it for the last 20 years should be the ones that should conduct an inquiry. And thing is too, what the fuck is an inquiry going to do? What is that going to do? They talk about inquiry. Let's just find out about it. It's kind of like our subcommittees in the government. Let's just talk about it, not fucking do anything about it. A tricky call. Maybe Phillips got it wrong. Maybe she got it right. These aren't easy or settled questions. The interplay of local politics, racial and religious tensions, retrograde attitudes towards women, and often terrible prejudice towards the victims themselves has made these cases fiendishly difficult to prosecute and prevent over the years. Quote, this dreadful life-altering crime has not gone away in Telford or elsewhere. Tom Crowther, a former judge who led the town's widely praised investigation, wrote in 2022. So again, he's trying to rationalize why this goes on. Let's keep going. But Musk didn't buy Twitter, now X, for its nuance. Quote, Jess Phillips is a rape genocide apologist. He posted at 6:40 a.m. Eastern time on January 3rd to his 200,011 followers. So again, is he wrong? Just because another conservative person did it before him, before Jess Phillips, doesn't that they're a rape genocide apologist too. Okay, criticize both. There's no reason why this should have gone unanswered. If requested, if the local government was like, fuck it, we want to take care of it, that's fine. But if they're asking the federal government for help because they can't do it, and for them to just go, figure it out. Yes, they're an apologist, okay? 20 minutes later, he lit into Keir Starmer, the prime minister, who was the chief prosecutor for England and Wales from 2008 to 2013, and oversaw some of the first successful prosecutions of British Asian grooming gangs. British Asian, Muslim. They are radical Islamist Muslim grooming gangs. This person can't admit it. During his tenure, Starmer was complicit in the rape of Britain, Musk wrote, in a tweet that, as of this writing, has received 59 million views. So again, keeps on, highlighting how many views they got. So important. But it's like, okay, what is Keir Starmer doing? That's the question. And here's the thing. I am not asking and saying Keir Starmer is all responsible, because you can go back to any of the conservatives that have been in power, all the MPs, all the conservative prime ministers, non-conservative, whatever they were over the last 20, 30, whatever it is, years, that 20 years, and it's really ramped up over the last 5. I want to say, especially the last decade, but the last 5, it has really ramped the fuck up. But you can rip on all of them. I am not just saying it's only Keir Starmer and Labour. It is every single MP that has been there over the last 20 years should all get fucked, okay? Because they've all known what's going on. Now, the UK is this fucking big, okay? It is an island. They all know about this. Squiggles McJr., I seen a thing about all the guys in the EDL with rape charges. Not good. Yeah. It's bad. Let's keep going with this terrible article. Since then, Musk has tweeted dozens of times on the subject, mostly amplifying anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim tropes, which British right-wing activists have attached to the abuse scandals for many years. Like them, Musk has suggested that the mighty woke cover-up has been at work, rather than acknowledging the truth, which is sadder and harder to bear, that these crimes took place in plain sight, that many of the girls, poor, desperately vulnerable, often young teens or even preteens, were regarded as sex workers or sluts rather than children, and almost no one cared. We agree with that. Which is why Elon Musk right now is going, let's fucking getting under control. Because you know what? Maybe Elon Musk was blind to this and ignorant to it because, number one, he was in South Africa, then he was in America. He was creating all these companies. He was doing all of this shit going on. And maybe right now someone got in his ear and showed him this. And he's like, what the fuck is going on here? And maybe it was politically charged. Maybe it is a conservative reform Brit that now wants to take down Keir Starmer and Labour and make them look bad. Sure, maybe. But the fact that Musk is now on it and wants to get it fixed, the fact that this guy over here is saying like, hey, this is a bad thing. What the fuck? Squiggles coming in again. Also, you see the weird sexual post from the former MP there in Oxford? I saw something about it. I didn't see them. I don't like reading that shit. I'm not going to lie, Squiggles. When it's some gross shit, I don't like reading it. I will if I have to, but I don't like it. Let's keep going. Quote, now why would Kira's stormtrooper, I like that name, order his own party to block such an inquiry? Musk tweeted, because he's hiding terrible things, that's why. Shortly after 8 a.m. on January 8th, Musk updated his pinned tweet to read, quote, please call your member of parliament and tell them that the hundreds of thousands of little girls in Britain who were and still are being systematically, horrifyingly gang raped deserve some justice in the world. So why is that a bad thing? Hold on. So one thing, you can criticize a lot of this stuff. Where, things that he says, right? But what, you can't criticize the last one. Call your MPs and try and get these girls justice. So it's crazy. It is crazy. The EDO is the English Defense League, Tommy Robinson's organization. I mean, listen, usually your people yelling the loudest about things have the biggest things to hide, right? That's typically how it is. And I know Tommy Robinson's got a shit ton of flack, and he's raised a lot of alarms about the right things, and he's sitting in jail for doing it. But it's like, you gotta watch out for the people you associate with sometimes, right? Like, you don't, even if they want to be there and they want to have good intentions, God, if they have a ton of fucking rape charges, it's tough, right? Because if people have the right intentions, they're coming to you, you want to be with you. I guess you could background check them if it's just an organization, or maybe you do it later. I don't know. But yeah, that's fucking bad. That's absolutely bad. So yeah, no, I don't like it. If they have a ton of rape charges, then maybe that league should be disbanded, and Tommy Robinson, when he comes out of jail, should fucking pick people better that, I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, to criticize that last part about calling the member of parliament, that's not something to criticize. That's something that should be getting done anyway. I don't know how much more we're going to read of this article because I kind of hate this guy. Anyway, it is generally hard to find the words to describe the crassness, the ignorance, and the potential violence wrapped up in each one of Musk's interventions. Again, the potential violence. They talk about words as violence all the time. The sudden fixation of the world's richest man on child sexual exploitation and deindustrialized English towns. Again, deindustrialized English towns. What does this mean? Because it's deindustrialized, then it shouldn't matter, or we shouldn't care. That's what it comes off as. I hope this guy can comment back and be like, no, that's not what I mean. Because, like, motherfucker, if just because it's deindustrialized, that would be like us being like, you know what, just because it's in the ghetto or just because it's in the trailer park, no one should fucking care about what goes on there. Shouldn't care about gangs, shouldn't care about rape, shouldn't care about anything, just because it's with the poor people in our area. Like, what a piece of shit this guy from the New Yorker is. And then he continues, much of which took place more than a decade ago. Again, okay, because it took place over a decade ago, then again, we should not care that people were sexually abused more than a decade ago. What the fuck? How can you even write this and think this is okay? Has forced British people like me, who follow the news, who live here, who think they actually care about such things, to check that we are not out of our minds. So we have remembered the voluminous reporting in all forms, official, journalistic, conspiratorial, dramatized for television, that have documented these awful stories for the past 15 years. We have remembered that reliable data on sex abuse, particularly toward children, is notoriously hard to compile. Again, so these are all excuses, everyone. Let's read this list of excuses. Last November, the Labour government published the first ever British statistics to include the ethnicity of perpetrators, which showed that 7% of the offenders in 2023 were Asian, roughly in line with their share of the population. Okay, so again, the ethnicity, not the religious affiliation. The ethnicity, not the religious affiliation. So let's keep going with this one. They keep on going back to ethnicity, which is hilarious. We have remembered that Starmer did a decent job as a public prosecutor. No, he didn't. We have remembered that in 2014, Alexis Jay, a Scottish academic and former social worker, led a shocking inquiry, which documented the abuse of some 1,400 girls in the town of Rotherham alone. Jay subsequently steered a 7-year national independent inquiry into child sex abuse with 15 strands of investigation that included interviews with more than 7,000 victims from all corners of Britain. Okay, what happened after these inquiries, guys? That's the thing. I'm tired of hearing the fucking inquiries. What happened? What happened? We have remembered that political will has been lacking. I agree with that. Hey, I will agree with that. The political will has been lacking, and it's a conservative's fucking fault. It's the Tories' fault, okay? It is not all Labor. Again, Labor doesn't give a fuck. Not saying labor cares at all. But the Tories were the ones in power. And the Tories were shit. And you can ask anyone that is British that follows politics, the Tories and the conservatives will tell you the Tories were shit and are shit. And it doesn't seem like reform is much better right now, but let's keep going. And we're not going to talk about all that. In 2022, Jay's monumental work made 20 recommendations, none of which were enacted by the previous conservative government, and criticized the fuck out of them, okay? I agree that Tory government can fuck itself. Can absolutely fuck itself. Squiggles McJr. coming in. The country is ran by a bunch of cucks, perverts, and power mongers. And it seems Squiggles at most countries. It seems that is most countries, especially the free ones, which is fucking terrifying. Smoking Jen comes in with a big A. What's going on, brother? How you doing, Danny? They are shit. God save the queen. Yes, God save the queen. Let's keep going here. But the hard graft of protecting vulnerable children or prosecuting rapists or enacting legislative change is not what Musk is after. Again, how does this motherfucker know what Musk is after? How does this guy is assuming he knows what Musk is after, that the richest man in the world who can draw attention to this and maybe get the political will moving over there, he should be an ally. If this guy actually cared, here, let me soapbox myself here. If this asshole that wrote this actually cared about kids getting raped by Muslims consistently, or it doesn't matter. I don't care if they're getting touched by their fucking uncle. If they actually care about the situation of sexual abuse that is obviously rampant in the unindustrialized towns, as they would like to call it, or rural towns that we call in America, if he actually cared about that, then he would be like, I don't like some of the things that Musk says, but I'm happy he's amplifying it because maybe he will push Parliament to have the political will to finally do something. He should be happy about this. He should not be pissed, but he doesn't actually give a fuck about the kids. This guy does not care. He's just trying to score political points. Squiggles McJr. says, yeah, my buddy Jake says it all. It's all just a grift over there in the government. Yes. And Squiggles saying, I don't trust Musk either, though. Me either. I don't trust him either. But here's the thing. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I compartmentalize Trump and Musk. I put in two similar baskets. Good Trump, good Musk, bad Musk. This is good Musk. He does two things. This is good Musk right now. Amplifying an issue that should be taken care of is good Musk. The quote, the truth is a concept that Elon Musk clearly has very little interest in. Andrew Norfolk, a recently retired investigative reporter in the Times of London. So didn't do a fucking job. Just read tweets and reported him, investigative reporter, who covered the grooming gang cases for years, told his old newspaper this week, yeah, reported on it. What did he do about it? Was he reporting them as South Asian gangs? South Asian British men gangs? Not Muslims? What Musk craves is disorder and proof of his power. Since endorsing Donald Trump's bid for presidency on X in July, he has stepped up his digital incursions on behalf of right-wing parties and causes in democracies from Argentina to Germany. During last year's riots in the UK, following the death by stabbing of 3 young girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class last Liverpool, which were inflamed by online misinformation identifying the alleged killer as Muslim immigrant, he wasn't, Musk tweeted, civil war is inevitable. All right, I'm done with this article. This guy goes on for more, just basically talking about, like, I don't want to read anymore from this fucking guy. This guy's an asshole, does not care about kids, should be pumped that if he gives a shit, like this guy sniffs his own farts for a little bit longer here. He should be pumped that Elon Musk is amplifying this. He should not be upset that Musk is amplifying this, but he is, because he does not care. He doesn't care at all. Squiggle saying it feels like the techies are just taking down the rails that keep the echo chamber separate to get the population all antagonized at each other's throats. I mean, here's the thing. There comes a point, though, Squiggles, where the antagonization needs to happen. Because when the antagonization wasn't happening these past probably before 2016, and even in the Obama years, you had everything leaning left heavily. because everything was done in the dark and there was no antagonization. The Marxists were able to move in silence. They were able to move and they were able to keep pushing things more and more left. And it was going through with the institutions first. It was going through um, all the institutions before it even got to the government. They were locking in everything else. They were locking in the news media. They were locking in the schools. They were locking in all the institutions. You could see what the deep state is. The bureaucracy is very left. And this was going to be before they took over everything else. What is good about the techies taking down a lot of these echo chambers is we could start to truly do battle, the field of battle and intellectual ideas with the leftist. And to the point where now a lot of them are fleeing, right? They're going over the blue sky and shit like that. They're mad at Zuckerberg for opening things up, right? Because when you debate them on the ideas, they're exposed to be the piece of shit that they are. But so I think it is good that they're taking it down. Do the government want us at our throats? Yes. It works well for the politicians when we're fighting amongst each other. But it does not work well for the uniparty politicians. It does not work well for them because when you start to see the ideologies clash, it starts to show a light on the things that they're not doing as well. Because then it kind of shows like, wait, why is my person, they're not doing anything. And I have a lot of people now, I look around and they agree with me. So I'm not alone in thinking that this should be a more conservative person, or if I'm a leftist, this should be a more left person. And while it does tend to push a little bit further, we need that. We need that right now because we just saw the huge attempt by the collectivists and they're not going to stop. But what we saw over the last, decade was a real collectivist leftist push to solidify their power, period. In all the institutions, with introducing all the critical theories, bang, 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 with the squad coming in hot and basically saying, hey, we want to go as far left as we fucking can with left-wing populism. Bernie's a bitch. We're going to go far. With that was massive. They did an all-out push to go as far left as they can to try and solidify leftism. And if it wasn't for some of these walls being broken down, there would not have been the exposure because James Lindsay would not have been able to do. And I know people are getting on James right now with the woke rights stuff, and he deserves some criticism with it, right? Because I think he's going off the rails a little as well. But we would not have had James Lindsay and what James Lindsay, Helen Prucklows, and Peter Boghossian did with the grievance studies would not have been able to get a ton of light. He would not have been able to continue to do work to break down the critical theories in an academic way that barely anybody did. If you're go read Cynical Theories with him and Helen Pluckrose. It's fantastic if you want to know what's going on. It's a high level read. I still have to go back and read some. I don't understand all of it. It's fucking amazing. But we wouldn't have had him. The Lotus Eaters would not have been able to do all of their breakdowns that they have been able to do in terms of fascism being on the left and the true horrors of communism. All these people that have come out the woodwork that have done such good work from the more right of center in disproving a lot of communism and leftism and collectivist theory and really going at it would not have been possible unless the techies have broken down some of these walls. Because when you do break down all the walls and when you do let the freedom really roam and the leftists have to actually try to defend their positions, they crumble every time. So that is one of the reasons why I'm actually okay with all of this being pushed down. So while I'm cool with, I get it that being at each other's throats does benefit the powerful in a way, but we're seeing it change in a lot of ways because we're seeing in the realm of ideas, the ideas that are winning are also the ones that people want to see their politicians starting to fight for. And if they're not fighting for it, then we are starting to slowly see change. We need more. But we shall see. So let's get to more of these comments. Squiggle saying that guy's an asshole. Yes, the guy that wrote the article is an asshole. Nate G saying England is lost. God, I hope not. I mean, the English are pretty dope for the most part. I hope they can fight back. Squiggle saying I agree. We need pushback, but I think something sinister is happening. It always is. It always is, Squiggles. There's always something sinister underneath. And we just have to try and be prepared as much as we can for it. Nate G saying grievance studies are all-timers. Belong in the Hall of Fame for the culture wars. And Squiggles coming back. It feels like they're astrosurfing and putting on a mask to gather data on people who are going to push back. They're just farming us and our data, filing it away for later. And maybe Squiggles, maybe. But if you don't fight, if you don't speak out, if you don't battle, then if you fight and speak out and that happens, then you're going to end up on your knees on a firing line, right? Period. If you don't speak out, you'll get by for a little bit, but you'll end up on your knees in that firing line eventually, or starving, or having to go against every single ideal that you've ever held strong to just stay alive and squeak by. So you know what the thing is, Squiggles? If something sinister is happening and they really want to round us up, they got a lot of fucking people to round up, and some pretty powerful people to round up too, with a lot of influence. A lot of, like, if that's their plan, then they're doing a shitty plan because they're allowing so many people to jump on. They're allowing a small army to be raised in such a way with the podcasting sphere, with the, it's not just Rush Limbaugh and a little bit of Fox News anymore. There's a huge coalition now. So if that's their plan, if they want to gather, listen, they can come take me. I'm a little guy, right? They'll come grab me and the small streamers. We'll all get fucked. But you got to battle. You got to enter into the field because this shit's too important to not do it. Squiggle saying, yeah, you see the things I say on there. I don't self-censor a bit. Exactly. And you can't. So if there is something sinister going on, bring it the fuck on, right? Because we are proving that there are a lot more of us than there are of them. And they can try and take us down, and maybe it'll work in other countries. And fuck, maybe it'll work in America. But I think we'll go down swinging if it happens. All right, we're at an hour 50. Let's see what else we got. I might be closing up soon and I'll do some more shit tomorrow. I want to share just some of the comments that were quoted over here with the New Yorker thing, because I thought some of them were pretty good over here. So let me make myself smaller. Boom, boom. Michael Malice coming in, quoting, the literal demon who wrote this is at Sam Knight Writes. He untagged himself from the tweet, if you look down, for obvious reasons. And then Michael Malice put his Instagram up there. I don't recommend harassing Sam Knight. Okay? I know Michael Malice wants people to go there and give him some what for. I don't recommend harassing Sam Knight, because Sam Knight's the type of bitch that will try and report you. It's not worth it. But he's just someone to look out for. We know where he stands now. We know he doesn't care about kids. We know he doesn't care about little girls getting raped. We know where he stands. But I always like Michael Malice. Michael Malice is dope. Nate G says, not to mention the infinite amount of pew-pews. Yes, Nate. But you know what, though? What COVID taught us, and I hope COVID wisened a lot of people up. COVID taught us that a lot of people will just get in fucking line. And it's scary. A lot of people will talk tough, but then a lot of people will get in line. And a small microcosm, look at Mike Johnson. People just got in fucking line over something much smaller. Share this tab here. Seamus from Freedom Tunes wrote, at Elon Musk, we should punish the people who sexually abuse children. The New Yorker. Wait, why? Then the last one I'll highlight here. Greg Gutfeld, one of the last few remaining greats on Fox News. If you're going to be fixated on something, I'd pick mass child rape. Wonder what the New Yorker would prefer you to be fixated on instead. So those were three of the ones I highlighted. You can go look at the quote tweets. There's a lot of good quote tweets there. Nate G saying Michael Malice is an OG. Yes, Michael Malice is very much an OG. I'm not an anarchist like him, but he's not a dumbass anarchist, if I want to say. Squiggles McJr. says pew-pews are not effective against designer viruses. Yes, they aren't effective against designer viruses, but they are effective against tyrannical governments, which is the purpose of the Second Amendment, which we all know about. I don't have to tell you guys about that. So, yeah, few of our former guests down here. George Alexopoulos is saying a far more important question. Let me share this tab. Far more important question is, why are you freaks trying to hide it with the New Yorker? Adam Coleman, another one of our former guests, long overdue justice. This isn't hard. So happy to highlight those two. Do I have anything else I want to go over yet? I mean, what do I have left? Yeah, we'll go over one more thing, and then I'll save the rest for tomorrow, because I think that this is dope right here. So we're going to jump into the Chronicles of Greenland are still going on. Eric Doherty has report. Prime Minister of Greenland announces he is ready to talk with Trump amidst talks of acquisition by the U.S. from Reuters. So, first off, this might not be a meme, everyone. On Wednesday, we talked to whatchamacallit. God, why am I forgetting her name right now? Wow, I'm a jerk. Who did we talk to on Wednesday? Let me look. David would be ripping me right now, and I deserve it because I had her name, Daniela Pensack. Talked to Daniela Pensack, the host of the Culturama podcast, and we kind of talked about Greenland and everything. And I'm saying, I think it's a meme, a power play, but it looks like it could be real. This is fucking crazy. We might annex Greenland, everyone. So let's see here because we have his announcement here. It's translated. New York Post has Greenland leaders ready to talk with Trump after president-elect expressed interest to buy the territory. I will try to read the captions here. So the desire for independence, the desire to be in one's own house is probably understood by all people in the world. And that struggle from Greenland's side isn't new. It didn't just happen yesterday. It didn't happen when I gave the New Year's speech, but things have developed in that direction for many, many years, at least for many decades. We don't want to be Danes. We don't want to be Americans. We want to be Greenlandic. And of course, it is the Greenlandic people who decide their future. They ask, have you been in contact with Donald Trump, the future U.S. president? No. But we are ready to talk. I think we are both ready to increase our dialogue and reach out, and therefore also talk about things that bring us together in the world we live in. So, him saying we're ready to talk, it's interesting. Are we ready to talk? What are they ready to talk about? Ready to talk about acquiring Greenland? Are they ready to talk about them telling us to fuck off? We want to work closer. We want to break away from the Danes. Let's see. So Nate saying 2 to 3% of colonial citizens fought for the revolution, 2% in the Civil War. Yes. Squiggle McJr. says designer viruses, Nate. Listen, here's the thing, though, with that. I understand that. But are we as a public wiser to designer viruses? Now, if they make them bad enough, who the fuck knows? We might be screwed. But we already started seeing the signs of bird flu. I had Dr. Peter McCullough on the show talking about the fact that they were already making a bird flu vaccination. He called that back in July that they wanted to do this. So I think we have people that are now, especially with more freedom of speech, that are raising the flags on things that they see in the medical community about this. Nate saying 32% actively report being gun owners. We both know it's higher. Squiggle saying we are hostages. Nate saying my favorite boogaloos don't report. And for Nate saying for everyone I have on paper, I got 5 more not on paper. Squiggles, don't admit that. The boating accident happens. You lost them all. Remember that. So there's that on the prime minister. Now, the post-millennial has a report over here. Denmark open to increasing security in Greenland without Trump purchase of the territory. They have a report. So let's go to that report right over here. And I'm going to end off with talking about Greenland. So Danish officials have sent private messages in recent days to the upcoming Trump administration to express that they are open to discussing. I'm too big right now. That they are open to discussing an increase in U.S. military in Greenland, along with boosting security for the island, according to a new report from Axios. So Denmark is basically saying, hey, United States, you could do a lot more in Greenland. We just don't want you to take it over. In recent weeks, Trump has signaled the United States' interest in Greenland is so high that he will not rule out military or economic coercion to gain control of Greenland. The Danish government, which has said that the land is not for sale, is reportedly trying to convince Trump that his security concerns can be addressed through increasing U.S. operations in Greenland, but not claiming it. So I'm curious if they will allow the United States to open up refineries there and allow the Greenlandic people to work on those refineries and let us be the beneficiaries of that refinery. Because I think that's really what Trump is after, is the natural resources, which we talked about again on the podcast with Daniela Pensack, host of the Culturama podcast. Go check it out. Go subscribe to Culturama. on Rumble. She is on Rumble and on YouTube. But go on Rumble and subscribe. She's a part of Austin Peterson's network, AP for Liberty, so she's pretty damn dope. Anyway, Denmark is seen as one of the strongest allies to the United States with the European Union, a diplomat told the outlet. And some have been shocked by the move from Trump. The Danish government is reportedly wanting to stay out of hot water with the U.S. Again, Trump doesn't give a fuck about any of that. He sees all the EU countries as fucking us, so I don't think he cares that the Danes are one of our closest allies. After Greenlandic Prime Minister, I want to say Mute Egidi, met with Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. I hope I said all this right. Agedi told reporters, Greenland is for the Greenlandic people. We do not want to be Danish. We just saw that. The Danish government made clear Greenland was not for sale, but expressed readiness to discuss any other U.S. requests regarding the island, Axios reported. A U.S. military base has been in Greenland for some time, and in 1951, agreement between the U.S. and Denmark has conditions on defending the island. Despite all of that, a purchase of the island is not impossible, according to a report from Politico. There are tons of variations in terms of what is administered by the Interior Department, the National Security Council Chief of Staff for Trump's first term, Alex Gray, said. It's not one size fits all, and we have precedent for doing lots of options. Many in Trump's orbit still believe a purchase can be met. So it is fucking crazy. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. It is wild that we are talking about taking over Greenland. Like, it is craziness, but it's cool. I mean, it could be crazy. It could be fun, but hey, Nate G with a comment. If I'm Denmark, I sell them a base, easy money. I mean, there already is a base there. So that I don't know if that's going to help. I really think it's going to be the resources. Can the resources go there? Nate also saying profitability in Greenland went up 200% in Greenland. He also says Denmark turns around and puts the cash into their UN-protected country and has better outcomes than our own, possibly. Squiggles McJr., it's dumb how people are complaining about adding new states and territories to our country. I mean, here's the thing. It's different when it's a politically added reason to add a state. Like the leftists want to add Puerto Rico and DC because they see them as being, places that are going to give them votes and stuff. Where Eric Doherty had a tweet. I didn't highlight it, but Trump is buying Greenland, which is going to take a while. The acquisition wouldn't be instant. It's going to take a little bit, the process. He talks about how we would have to vote on it. Then Greenland would have to vote on it. There would have to be things written up. Denmark would have to agree to it. So there would be a lot of moving parts, and it would happen. It would officially end after Trump's presidency, like maybe 10 years down the road. So Eric Doherty was saying that this is a future move if they do it, that this is going to benefit me and you 10, 20, 30 years down the road, our kids, if there is prosperity that Greenland can have in terms of resources and work and things like that. Ofux comes in. Power is also much cheaper there, I believe. And since it is so much colder there, it makes a great place for data centers. Natural cooling equals great for blockchain and AI development. And also, Ofux, that's a great point. Number one, I didn't even think about the data. And number two, if you want to go and do the microchips, which we're behind, and which the only good thing Biden did was the CHIPS Act, where, okay, let's start building some microchip processing plants there. Fuck knows, maybe. Thanks for the comments, everyone. I always appreciate it. Ofox, Nate, Squiggles, you guys are awesome. David, Dan, all of you. Squiggles McJr., we should have been doing that, offering statehood to everyone. I mean, listen, colonization's dope, okay? Nate G saying Greenland should not be a state. It's California territory at best. I don't know their politics, so I have no idea. Squiggles Jr. saying we shouldn't have let the UN subvert our soft power. Yes. Well, the UN's a problem. UN needs to be dissolved. UN's fucking evil. Again, if you want to hear about the evilness of UN, go to the New Discourses podcast. Listen to a bunch of them with James Lindsay as he covers Angela Bogosky, the Satanists and shit like that. The fact that the UN has a publishing company, and it's honestly, go look up what the UN is, and the articles and stuff that James covers and stuff is ridiculous. Nate saying socialists and polled Greenlanders 83% for Kamala. I mean, maybe there's a silent majority with the polls there, Nate. You never know. There's not a ton of people there, though, so if you do something good, it might be easier to sway them. Squiggle saying the CHIPS Act literally is the only good thing Biden did. It is. And again, I'll give them credit where credit is due. The CHIPS Act is a thing that needed to be done, especially with China potentially looking to eat up Taiwan. That would make them the biggest chip producer in the world because Taiwan is China's number 2. So we need to keep that going. Squiggles McJr. saying, oh, yeah, I hate the UN. They are really evil. 100%. You look at the sustainability goals and all that shit, they are all there. Mike Benz, too. Yes, Mike Benz does great work on it. There's been a lot of people popping up that do amazing work. OFUC saying, funny thing about the CHIPS Act, there were 2 predecessor bills that ended up being the CHIPS Act. They were both under Trump until C-19 came around. And Squiggle saying Mike Benz is a ship. Mike Benz is a ship. And thank you for that, OFUC. I didn't know that those bills were Trump era bills. But you know what, though? The thing is, it got done. Biden's going to get the credit because it got done under Biden because the political will was there. And that's fantastic. OFUC saying, plus the bipartisan plus bicameral support, chips would have been passed under Trump as well. Okay, so probably in his second term it would have been passed. But again, the ones that do it get the credit. So I will give Biden still has to finish up signing it, right? If you want to be a douchebag, he could veto it and make him have to come back and get 66% in each chamber. So he did sign it. So it is a benefit. It's a boon. It's going to help our country. So I'll give him the win. OFUC, listen, the man needs a win. Give him one. His second win was Trump winning because fuck Kamala. He hates her too. But all right, everyone, I'm running out of here. 2 hours and 5 minutes. I have to apologize to my father again because he's like a 2-hour episode. It's driving me crazy. But I always thank, the ones that always listen. I know my brother-in-law, Russ, listens to this all the time. And we have, I'm grateful for all of you guys in the chat. Squiggles, Nate, Ofox, Danny, like I said. Obviously, my brother was hanging out in here. But just grateful that this small community that we have, you guys keep coming back, keep hanging out with me. And I love it. It's the reason why I do it. And I'll be back and always appreciate everyone that watches and everyone that listens. So whether you're watching on X, Facebook, YouTube, Kick, Rumble, appreciate all of you. You're all fantastic. Do what you need to do over there. Follow, like, subscribe, repost, all that good stuff. If you're listening to this in podcast form, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, wherever you are, give this a good review. Leave a comment. And I will see everyone later. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out. Maybe I'll be back tomorrow. I'll do a Sunday show possibly, and Monday maybe. I don't know. Maybe you'll get 3 in a row if you're lucky out of me. I might take tomorrow off to write. The goal is to finish one of my many books. But I have a project possibly coming up in the near future. I might talk about. I have a lot to do to get to that project, but I might talk about it. So appreciate it. Nate, thank you for the love. Oh, Fox, Squiggles, everyone. Thanks, guys.